Hello, my good friends. How are you today? May God bless you all. I will not introduce anything. You guys watch the video and feel it. Then let's evaluate together. The grand lobby of King Enterprises in downtown Chicago was buzzing like a beehive on a sugar high. Crystal chandeliers dangled from the ceiling, throwing light across the marble floors like they were showing off. Men in tailored suits and women in dresses that screamed money sipped champagne from flutes so delicate they looked ready to shatter if you breathed too hard. The air smelled of expensive cologne, roasted appetizers, and that faint corporate arrogance that clung to places like this. It was the annual King Enterprises Gala, the kind of event where deals were sealed over small talk and everyone pretended they weren't sizing each other up. Then she walked in. Or more accurately, she stumbled in. Nia Carter pushed through the glass doors with the grace of a linebacker tripping over a shoelace. Her navy blue dress, a last-minute loan from her best friend Tina, was on inside out, the tag flapping against her chest like a white flag begging for mercy. Her thick, curly hair, usually tied up in a messy bun, had broken free, cascading around her shoulders in a wild, untamed halo. One of her heels, a thrift store find, wobbled like it was plotting its escape, and her clutch was tucked under her arm, spilling a crumpled dollar bill onto the floor. She froze for a split second, dark brown eyes wide, taking in the sea of polished faces staring back at her. "Oh, hell no," she muttered under her breath, patting her hair like that might fix the chaos. It didn't. Up on the stage, Jaxon King stood behind a sleek podium, mid-sentence in his opening speech. The man was a walking billboard for success. 6'2", broad shoulders filling out a black tuxedo that probably cost more than Nia's rent. His dark hair was swept back, just a little messy in that intentional way rich guys pulled off, and his green eyes scanned the room with the cool confidence of someone who owned it, which he did. King Enterprises was his kingdom, a tech empire built from the ground up, and he ruled it with a mix of razor-sharp smarts and a demeanor so icy most people didn't dare crack a joke around him. And that's why we're here tonight, to celebrate innovation, dedication, and... He stopped. His gaze landed on Nia, standing there like a deer caught in headlights, and something shifted. The corner of his mouth twitched. Then, without warning, he laughed. Not a polite chuckle, not a CEO-approved snort, a full-on throw-your-head-back laugh that echoed through the room. Heads turned, glasses clinked. A waiter nearly dropped his tray of mini sliders. "Is he okay?" someone whispered from the back. "Mr. King?" Elliot, his assistant, hissed from the sidelines, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses like he could reset the moment. Jaxon didn't care. He set the microphone down on the podium with a soft thud, stepped off the stage, and started walking toward Nia. The crowd parted like the Red Sea, murmurs rippling through them. Nia's heart kicked into overdrive. She tugged at her dress, trying to figure out if she could flip it right side out before he got to her, but the zipper was stuck, and the tag was practically waving hello to everyone. "Yo, what's happening?" she said, voice low, mostly to herself. She glanced around for an exit, but Jaxon was already there, standing in front of her, his polished shoes inches from her scuffed ones. Up close, he smelled like cedarwood and something spicy, and those green eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that made her stomach flip. "Nia Carter," he said, loud enough for the room to hear, his voice smooth but carrying that edge of amusement. He reached into his pocket, and the crowd held its breath. Was he pulling out a business card, a phone, a security buzzer to have her escorted out? Nope. It was a small velvet box. He dropped to one knee, right there on the marble floor, and popped it open. A diamond ring sparkled under the chandelier light, simple but blinding. "Nia," he said, grinning like a kid who'd just won a bet. "Will you marry me and turn every damn day of my life into a beautiful, chaotic mess?" The room exploded. Gasps, cheers, a few confused claps from the back. Someone even yelled, What the hell? Nia's jaw dropped. Her hands flew to her face, then to her hair, then back to her face, like she couldn't decide what to do with them. The tag on her dress fluttered as she shifted, and she caught a glimpse of herself in the reflection of a nearby glass panel. She looked like she'd just rolled out of a tornado, and here was this man, this billionaire, down on one knee, asking her to be his wife. Hold up, she said, voice cracking with a mix of panic and laughter. You serious right now, Jaxon? Like, for real, for real? Dead serious, he shot back, still kneeling, unfazed by the chaos around them. I don't promise you the world, Nia. I promise you every laugh I've got, every dumb moment we can stumble through together. Say yes. Her chest tightened. The room spun a little. Maybe it was the champagne fumes. Maybe it was the fact that Jaxon King, the guy who'd barely cracked a smile in Forbes photos, was looking at her like she was the only person in the universe. She opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. Only if you can handle this dress being backward for the rest of our lives, she said finally, pointing at the tag with a shaky grin. Deal, he said, and before she could overthink it, he was on his feet, pulling her into his arms. Their lips crashed together, messy and unscripted, her hands gripping his tuxedo jacket, his fingers tangling in her curls. The crowd roared louder. A waiter passing by jolted in surprise, and his tray of cocktails tipped, splashing gin and tonic across the floor with a glorious crash. Nia laughed into the kiss, pulling back just enough to mutter, "See? Already starting." Jaxon wiped a splash of gin off his cheek, smirking. Wouldn't have it any other way. For a minute, they stood there, foreheads pressed together, the chaos of the room fading into a hum. Then Nia stepped back, smoothing her dress like it mattered, and glanced at the crowd. "Y'all got a problem?" she called out, hands on her hips. A few people laughed, others raised their glasses. She turned back to Jaxon, shaking her head. "You're crazy. You know that?" "Takes one to know one," he said, slipping the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, even if her hands were still trembling. And just like that, the King Enterprises gala turned into something else entirely. A celebration of a proposal no one saw coming, least of all Nia. But how did they get here? How did a girl from the south side of Chicago, with a knack for turning every situation into a hot mess, end up with a ring from the coldest CEO in the city? Let me take you back to the beginning. Rewind a few months. Picture this. Chicago in the thick of summer, humidity sticking to everything like a second skin. The streets downtown were alive, horns blaring, CTA buses rumbling, folks hustling to work with iced coffees dripping condensation. Nia Carter was late, real late. She jogged down Michigan Avenue, her beat-up sneakers slapping the pavement, a thin sheen of sweat glistening on her deep brown skin. Her crop top, a bright yellow number she'd snagged from a clearance rack, was torn at the hem from where it had caught on her apartment door, and her black leggings hugged her curves tight enough to turn a few heads. Her hair was piled into a high ponytail, curls bouncing with every step, and her backpack swung wildly, one strap already fraying. "Move, move, move!" she huffed, dodging a guy with a briefcase who glared like she'd personally offended him. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Probably Tina, her ride or die, texting something like, "Girl, you're screwed." Nia didn't have time to check. She had exactly 7 minutes to get to King Enterprises for a job interview she couldn't afford to blow. Assistant to some big shot. The pay was stupid good, enough to cover rent and maybe send a little back to Mama D, who was still working doubles at the factory. The glass tower of King Enterprises loomed ahead, all sleek lines and mirrored windows reflecting the city skyline. Nia skidded to a stop outside, chest heaving, and caught her reflection in the doors. "Oh, you gotta be kidding me," she groaned. The tear in her top had widened, flashing a sliver of her stomach. and her ponytail was leaning to one side like a drunk ant at a cookout. She yanked at the fabric, trying to stretch it down, when the doors slid open, and out stepped Jaxon King. He was on his phone, barking something about quarterly reports, looking like he'd walked off a GQ cover, white dress shirt rolled up to the elbows, dark slacks that fit just right, and a coffee cup in his other hand. Black, no cream, no sugar, because of course he was that guy. Nia didn't see him coming. She turned, still tugging at her shirt, and slammed right into him. The coffee went flying, a brown waterfall splattering across his chest, dripping down to the pavement. "Shit!" Nia yelped, jumping back. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I didn't..." Jaxon froze, phone still at his ear, staring at the mess on his shirt. His jaw tightened, and for a second, Nia thought she was toast. Fired before she even got hired. Maybe arrested. But then his eyes flicked up to her, wide, frantic, and shining with a mix of panic and defiance, and something cracked. He laughed. A short, sharp bark of a laugh, like he couldn't hold it in. You good?" Nia asked, hands hovering like she might try to wipe him down, then thinking better of it. He lowered the phone, ending the call without a word, and shook his head. "You just baptized me in espresso. I should be asking you that." "Look, I got like $10, she said, digging into her backpack and pulling out a crumpled bill. She shoved it at him, her nails painted a chipped purple. "Take it. I'll Venmo you the rest or something. Just don't sue me, okay?" He stared at the money, then at her, and the laugh came back, deeper this time. "Keep it," he said, brushing a hand through his hair. "You're gonna need it more than me." She blinked, caught off guard by the grin tugging at his lips. Up close, he was even better looking. Sharp jawline, a little stubble, and those eyes that seemed to see right through her. Her stomach did a little flip, but she chalked it up to nerves. "Wait, you're not mad?" "Nah," he said, glancing at the coffee pooling at his feet. "This is the most interesting thing that's happened to me all week." Before she could figure out what that meant, he stepped aside, gesturing toward the doors. "You going in or what?" "Yeah, interview," she said, smoothing her top one last time. "Assistant gig. Probably tanked it already, huh?" He raised an eyebrow, still smirking. "We'll see." She hustled inside, heart pounding, leaving him standing there with his ruined shirt and a look she couldn't quite read. Little did she know, Jaxon King wasn't just some random suit she'd crashed into. He was the guy she was interviewing for. And he'd already decided, right then and there, that she was walking out with the job. The interview room was a nightmare. Glass walls, a long table, and 3 people staring at her like she was an alien specimen. Nia sat across from them, legs crossed, trying to look like she belonged. Her resume, 2 pages of odd jobs, from bartending to dog walking, was spread out in front of them, and she could feel the judgment radiating off the woman with the tight bun and the dude with the gray suit. The third guy, Elliot, kept scribbling notes, his glasses slipping down his nose. "Miss Carter," Tight Bun said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Tell us about yourself." Nia flashed a grin, hoping it hid the sweat trickling down her back. "Hey, y'all. I'm Nia. Grew up on the South Side, love a challenge, and I'm real good at rolling with the punches. Like literal punches, I've broken up bar fights. That count as teamwork?" Graysuit coughed, hiding a smirk. Tight Bun didn't flinch. "And why do you want to work at King Enterprises?" "'Cause I need a gig that pays better than slinging wings at Buffalo Wild Wings," Nia said, leaning forward. "And I figure a place like this could use someone who ain't afraid to get their hands dirty." Before Tight Bun could respond, Nia's phone blared from her bag, a loud, obnoxious trap beat Tina had set as her ringtone. She dove for it, fumbling, and accidentally hit speaker. "Girl, you alive? Did you trip yet?" Tina's voice boomed through the room. Nia slammed the mute button, cheeks burning. That's my hype woman. Sorry. The panel exchanged looks. Elliot scribbled faster. Nia sank lower in her chair, sure she'd blown it. But then the door opened and Jaxon walked in, coffee stains still darkening his shirt. The room straightened up like he'd flipped a switch. "Wrap it up," he said, nodding at the panel. "She's hired." "What?" Nia blurted. At the same time, Tightbun said, "Sir?" "You heard me," Jaxon said, crossing his arms. "She starts Monday." He didn't explain. Didn't need to. He just gave Nia a quick, conspiratorial wink and walked out, leaving her staring after him, mouth open, wondering what the hell she'd just stumbled into. That's where it all began. A spilled coffee, a laugh, and a job she didn't deserve but somehow got. How does a girl like Nia Carter, a walking disaster from the South Side, end up with a ring from Jaxon King, the king of Chicago's tech world? Stick around, 'cause this story's just getting started. Do you think love can spark from a mess like that? Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below. Let me know what you think. Nia Carter was not built for mornings. Never had been. Back on the South Side, she'd stumble out of bed at noon, throw on whatever wasn't wrinkled, and shuffle to whatever gig she'd picked up that week. Dog walking, bartending, or that one summer she sold knockoff sunglasses out of a folding chair. But this Monday was different. She'd set 3 alarms, chugged a Red Bull, and even ironed her shirt, a faded black button-up she'd snagged from Goodwill. She was starting her new job at King Enterprises, and she wasn't about to let it slip through her fingers. Not after that train wreck of an interview. The Chicago sun was already beating down, turning the sidewalks into griddles as she hustled toward the train. Her backpack bounced against her shoulders, stuffed with a water bottle, a half-eaten granola bar, and a pair of flats in case her sneakers gave out. She'd gone for jeans this time, dark, tight ones that hugged her hips, and kept the yellow crop top from last week, tear and all, because it was her lucky shirt now. Her curls were wrestled into a high bun, a few strands escaping like they had a mind of their own. She caught her reflection in a shop window and smirked. Looking like a hot mess, but a hot mess with a paycheck. The Red Line train screeched into the station, and Nia squeezed in, elbowing past a guy in a Cubs jersey who smelled like stale beer. She checked her phone, 7:45 a.m. She had 15 minutes to get to King Enterprises, clock in, and figure out what the hell an assistant to a CEO even did. Her best friend Tina had texted her at 3 a.m., half drunk and hyping her up. "You're gonna kill it, girl. Don't spill nothing on the boss again, though, lol." Nia snorted, typing back, "No promises." By the time she hit Michigan Avenue, she was jogging again, her sneakers slapping the pavement, sweat beading on her forehead. The King Enterprises tower loomed ahead, all glass and steel, reflecting the city like a giant mirror. She slowed down, catching her breath, and tugged at her shirt. "Okay, Nia, you got this. Don't trip, don't cuss, don't—" She didn't finish the thought. The automatic doors slid open, and she stepped inside, right into a wall of air-conditioned perfection. The lobby was a different planet. Marble floors gleamed under recessed lights. A reception desk sat like a throne with 2 women behind it, who looked like they'd been photoshopped into real life. Blonde, poised, not a hair out of place. Suits milled around, talking in low tones about stocks and mergers, their shoes clicking like they were keeping time. Nia felt every eye in the room flick toward her. Her torn crop top, her messy bun, her whole vibe screaming, "I don't belong here." She squared her shoulders anyway, strutting up to the desk like she owned the joint. "Morning," she said, flashing a grin at the receptionist closest to her. "I'm Nia Carter, starting today. Assistant gig." The woman, name tag reading Claire, looked her up and down, her lips pursing like she'd bitten a lemon. "ID?" she said, voice flat. Nia fished her wallet out of her backpack, sliding her driver's license across the counter. Claire scanned it, typed something into her computer, and handed it back with a temporary badge. Elevators that way. 25th floor. Don't be late. Wouldn't dream of it, Nia said, clipping the badge to her shirt. She turned toward the elevators, her stomach doing flips. This was it. Day 1. She pressed the button, tapping her foot as the numbers above the doors ticked down. When they slid open, she stepped in and ran smack into Jaxon King. It was like déjà vu, except this time it wasn't coffee. She bounced off his chest, her badge clattering to the floor, and he caught her elbow to steady her. He was in a navy suit today, crisp and tailored, with a white shirt underneath that made his green eyes pop. His hair was just messy enough to look human, and he smelled like money, clean, sharp, with a hint of something woodsy. Nia's brain short-circuited for a second, registering the warmth of his hand on her arm, the way his fingers lingered before letting go. Whoa, we gotta stop meeting like this, she said, bending to grab her badge. Her voice came out higher than she meant, and she cursed herself internally. Chill, Nia, chill. Jaxon smirked, stepping back to let her into the elevator. You're making it a habit. Yeah, well, I'm a creature of chaos, she said, clipping the badge back on. She glanced at him, trying to play it cool, but damn, he was fine. Like fine, the kind of fine that made you forget your own name for a second. She shook it off, hitting the button for the 25th floor. The doors closed, trapping them in the small space, and the silence stretched out, thick and awkward. He broke it first. First day? Yup, she said, popping the P. Assistant to some big shot. You work here too? He raised an eyebrow, and she caught a flicker of amusement in his eyes. Something like that. Cool, she said, nodding like she wasn't dying inside. What do you do? You look like one of those finance bros who yell about stocks all day. He laughed, a low, rumbling sound that hit her square in the chest. Not quite. I'm more hands-on. Like maintenance? She teased, grinning. Fixing the coffee machines I keep breaking? Close enough, he said, his smirk widening. The elevator dinged, and the doors opened onto the 25th floor. He gestured for her to go first. After you. She stepped out, her sneakers squeaking on the polished floor, and glanced back at him. Catch you later, coffee guy. Count on it, he said. And there was something in his tone, like a promise, that made her pause. But she didn't have time to dwell. She had a job to do. The 25th floor was a maze of glass offices and cubicles, all sharp angles and muted grays. People moved with purpose, tapping away at laptops or murmuring into headsets. Nia felt like a fish out of water, but she kept her chin up, following the signs to the executive suite. A guy in a sweater vest, Elliot, she'd learn later, met her at the door, clipboard in hand, glasses perched on his nose like he was auditioning for a librarian role. Nia Carter? He said, peering at her badge. That's me, she said, giving him a little wave. Follow me, he said, turning on his heel. Mr. King's waiting. King? She echoed, jogging to keep up. That the big shot I'm assisting. Elliot shot her a look over his shoulder, like she'd said something dumb. Yes, Jaxon King, the CEO. Nia stopped dead in her tracks. Wait, what? He didn't slow down, just kept walking. CEO, founder. The guy who runs this whole operation. You didn't know? Her stomach dropped. You're telling me the dude I just smashed into twice now is my boss? Elliot sighed, pushing open a set of double doors. Welcome to King Enterprises. The office beyond was massive, floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the Chicago skyline, a desk the size of a small car, and Jaxon King, leaning against it, arms crossed, watching her with that same damn smirk. He ditched the suit jacket, sleeves rolled up to his elbows, and the coffee stain from last week was long gone, replaced by a vibe that screamed, "I own this place." Which, yeah, he did. "Hey," he said, nodding at her. "You made it?" Nia's mouth opened, then closed. "You're the CEO?" "Guilty," he said, pushing off the desk and walking toward her. "And you're my new assistant, assuming you still want the job." Yeah," she said, recovering fast. "Just didn't peg you for the top dog. Thought you were like the coffee runner or something." He laughed again, and she decided right then she liked the sound of it. Warm, real, not the fake crap she'd expected from a suit. "I'll take that as a compliment," he said. "Elliot, give her the rundown. I've got a call." "Yes, sir," Elliot said, already flipping through his clipboard. Jaxon gave Nia one last look, longer than necessary, his eyes lingering on her torn shirt, her jeans, her everything, before heading out. She felt the heat of it all the way down to her toes. Elliot was a machine. He walked her through the basics, emails, schedules, coffee runs, ironic, and a million other things she'd probably forget by lunch. The office was a whirlwind, and Nia was barely keeping up. By noon, she was parked at a desk outside Jackson's office, staring at a computer screen she didn't know how to unlock, when he poked his head out. "You alive out there?" he called. "Barely," she said, spinning her chair to face him. "This thing's asking for a password, and I'm about to guess password 123. He chuckled, stepping out and leaning over her shoulder to type it in. His arm brushed hers, and she caught that woodsy scent again, mixed with something faintly minty. "It's King 2020, he said, close enough that she could feel his breath on her neck. "Don't tell anyone." "Scout's honor," she said, holding up 2 fingers. He straightened, and she swore his hand grazed her back on the way up, sending a little jolt through her. She ignored it. Had to. He was her boss, not some dude at the bar she could flirt with. "Lunch is on me today," he said, tossing her a company credit card. "Grab something for us. You pick." "For real?" she said, catching the card midair. "You trust me with this?" "I trusted you with my shirt last week," he said, grinning. "How much worse can it get?" "Famous last words," she shot back, already plotting a run to Harold's chicken shack. She stood, stretching, and caught him watching her, eyes flicking to the strip of skin where her crop top rode up. He looked away fast, clearing his throat, but she smirked. "See something you like, boss?" "Just making sure you don't trip on the way out," he said, recovering smooth as hell. "Uh-huh," she said, sauntering toward the elevator. "Keep telling yourself that." Lunch was a success. Fried chicken, waffles, and a side of fries she'd snagged from a food truck because why not? She hauled it back to the office, dropping the bags on Jackson's desk with a flourish. "Feast fit for a king," she said, winking. "Get it?" "Cute," he said, digging in. They ate right there, him in his fancy chair, her perched on the edge of the desk, trading bites and stories like they'd known each other forever. She told him about the South Side, block parties, her mama's cornbread, the time she accidentally set off a firecracker in her cousin's garage. He told her about growing up in a Gold Coast mansion, all stiff dinners and colder parents, and how he'd built King Enterprises to get out from under their thumb. "You don't seem like the stuck-up type," she said, licking sauce off her fingers. "I try not to be," he said, watching her with that look again, half amused, half something else. "You're not what I expected either." "What did you expect?" she asked, leaning closer, elbows on the desk. "Someone quieter," he said, voice dropping a little. "Less you." She laughed, loud and unfiltered, and he joined in. For a second, it was just them. No CEO, no assistant, just 2 people vibing over chicken and chaos. Then Elliot burst in, clipboard waving, and the spell broke. "Mr. King, your 2 p.m. is here," he said, eyeing the food like it was a crime scene. "Be right there," Jaxon said, wiping his hands. He stood, brushing past Nia close enough that their shoulders bumped. "Good pick, Carter. Keep it up." "Always do," she said, hopping off the desk. He left, and she sank into her chair, heart racing for no damn reason. Or maybe there was a reason, one she wasn't ready to name yet. That first day set the tone. Nia was a tornado in Jaxon's orderly world, and he didn't seem to mind. She messed up, sent emails to the wrong people, spilled water on a stack of contracts, called a client dude on a conference call, but he just laughed, fixed it, and kept her around. She didn't get it. Why her? Why not some polished grad with a degree and a planner? But every time he looked at her, every time he lingered a little too long, she felt it. Something brewing, something big. Nia Carter had been at King Enterprises for 2 weeks, and she was still waiting for the other shoe to drop. Every morning, she'd roll in, usually late, always loud, expecting Jaxon to call her into his office and say, "Yeah, this ain't working, kid." But he never did. Instead, he'd grin at her latest screw-up, fix it with a few keystrokes, and send her back out to wreak more havoc. She'd burned through 3 coffee filters, one literally caught fire, sent a meeting invite to the entire company instead of just the execs, and accidentally hung up on a Tokyo investor mid-sentence. And yet, here she was, still sitting at her desk outside his glass-walled kingdom, chugging iced coffee like it was her lifeline. The office was starting to feel less alien, though. She'd figured out the coffee machine mostly, learned Elliot's tells, he twitched his nose when he was pissed, and even got a nod from Claire at reception one day, which felt like a damn medal. Her desk was a mess of sticky notes, half-empty snack bags, and a bobblehead of Michael Jordan she'd brought from home. But it was hers. She'd carved out a little corner in this shiny, sterile world, and it didn't suck. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling she was a fraud. The suits whispered when she walked by, their eyes lingering on her ripped jeans and hoop earrings, like she was a puzzle they couldn't solve. She overheard snippets. Where'd they find her? And, she's not exactly corporate material. It stung, but she brushed it off with a laugh or a middle finger in her mind. She'd dealt with worse back home, folks judging her for her loud mouth, her South Side roots, her everything. This was just a fancier version of the same shit. That Thursday, though, the whispers got louder. She was hunched over her computer trying to figure out why Jaxon's calendar kept double-booking him, when a shadow fell across her desk. She looked up to see a guy in a pinstripe suit, mid-30s, slick hair, the kind of smug vibe that screamed, "I went to business school and I'm better than you." He leaned against her desk, arms crossed, smirking like he'd caught her stealing. "You're the new girl, right?" he said, voice dripping with something she couldn't quite place. "Carter?" "Nia," she said, leaning back in her chair and matching his smirk. "And you are?" "Brad, VP of Marketing." He didn't offer a handshake, just kept staring. "Heard you're King's latest project." She raised an eyebrow. "Project?" "Yeah," he said, lowering his voice like they were in on some secret. "You know, the diversity hire. Gotta keep the optics good, right?" The words hit her like a slap, but she didn't flinch. She'd heard that line before, back in high school, at every job she'd scraped by on. She forced a laugh, sharp and loud, making him blink. "Oh, you funny, Brad. Real funny. I'm here 'cause I'm good at what I do, not 'cause I'm some checkbox. You got a problem with that? Take it up with the big man." Brad straightened, his smirk faltering. "Just saying what everyone's thinking." "Cool," she said, turning back to her screen. "Think it somewhere else then." He lingered for a second, then walked off, muttering something she didn't catch. Her hands shook as she typed, the screen blurring a little. She wasn't mad, Not yet, just tired. Tired of proving she belonged. Tired of the side eyes. She grabbed her phone and shot a text to Tina. These fools think I'm a token. About to lose it. Tina's reply came fast. Girl, fuck 'em. You're there 'cause you're you. Tell Brad to kiss your ass. Nia snorted, pocketing the phone. Tina was right. She wasn't here to play nice with assholes like Brad. She was here for the check. And maybe, just maybe, because Jaxon saw something in her no one else did. Later that afternoon, things got weirder. Nia was in the break room, wrestling with the espresso machine, again, when Jaxon walked in. He was in a gray suit today, tie loose, looking like he'd just survived a war zone of meetings. He stopped short when he saw her, the machine hissing like an angry cat, coffee dripping onto the counter. You and that thing got beef or what? He said, grabbing a stack of napkins and tossing them her way. It's personal now, she said, catching the napkins and mopping up the mess. This damn machine's trying to get me fired. Nah, he said, stepping closer to help. Takes more than a coffee flood to scare me off. Their hands brushed as they wiped the counter, and she felt that jolt again, the one she'd been ignoring since day one. He was close, too close, his sleeve grazing her arm, his cologne filling her nose. She glanced up, catching his eyes, green and steady, locked on hers. Her breath hitched, and for a dumb second, she thought he might lean in. But then the door swung open, and Elliot bustled in, clipboard in hand. Mr. King, your 3 p.m. is early, he said, oblivious to the vibe he'd just killed. Jaxon stepped back, clearing his throat. Right. On my way. He shot Nia a quick grin. Don't burn the place down, Carter. No promises, she said, smirking, but her heart was still pounding as he left. What the hell was that? She shook it off, blaming the caffeine fumes. The real trouble hit at the end of the day. Nia was packing up, shoving pens and her Jordan bobblehead into her backpack, when the elevator dinged. She didn't look up until she heard the click of heels, sharp and deliberate, cutting through the hum of the office. Then came the voice, smooth and cold, like ice dripping down your spine. Jaxon around? Nia's head snapped up. Standing there was a woman who looked like she'd walked out of a magazine spread. Tall, blonde, legs for days, wrapped in a silver dress that hugged every curve like it was custom-made. Her hair fell in perfect waves, and her blue eyes scanned the room with a mix of boredom and entitlement. A designer bag dangled from her arm, and her lips, painted a bold red, curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. He's in a meeting, Nia said, slinging her backpack over her shoulder. Who are you? The woman's gaze flicked to Nia, sizing her up like she was a thrift store rack. Cassie Vaughn, and you must be the new help. Nia's jaw tightened. Nia Carter. Assistant, not help. Cassie's smile widened, sharp and fake. Cute. Tell Jaxon I stopped by. We've got some catching up to do. She turned to leave, heels clicking, but Nia wasn't letting it slide. Hold up. Catching up? You his sister or something? Cassie laughed, a high, brittle sound, and glanced back. No, honey. I'm his ex. The one who got away. Nia's stomach twisted, but she kept her face blank. Oh, cool story. I'll let him know. You do that, Cassie said, sauntering toward the elevator, and tell him I'll be at the Drake tonight if he wants a real conversation. The doors closed and Nia stood there, fists clenched, feeling like she'd just been sucker punched. Ex? The one who got away? She didn't even know Jaxon had an ex, let alone one who looked like a damn Victoria's Secret model. She grabbed her phone, firing off a text to Tina. Boss's ex just rolled in like she owns the place. Blonde, bougie, bitchy. Help. Tina's reply was instant. Oh, hell no. She trying to stake a claim? You better mark your territory, girl. He's my boss, not my man, Nia typed back, but her fingers hesitated. Wasn't he? No, nope. She wasn't going there. She stuffed her phone in her pocket and headed for the elevator, but the seed was planted, and it was growing fast. Jaxon caught up with her in the lobby, just as she was about to push through the doors. "Carter, hold up!" he called, jogging over. His tie was off now, shirt unbuttoned at the collar, and he looked less like a CEO and more like a guy who'd just clocked out after a long shift. "What's up?" she said, turning to face him. Her voice was tighter than she meant, and he noticed. "You okay?" he asked, frowning. "You look like you're about to punch someone." She forced a laugh, crossing her arms. "Just met your fan club. Cassie Vaughn, ring a bell?" His face changed, jaw tightening, eyes darkening. "She was here?" "Yup," Nia said, popping the P like a gunshot. "Dropped by to catch up. Said she'll be at the Drake if you're free. Real classy." Jaxon ran a hand through his hair, exhaling hard. "Shit. I didn't know she was in town." "Yeah, well, she made sure I did," Nia said, shifting her weight. "Ex, huh? She's something." "She's trouble," he said, voice low. "We split a couple years back. She didn't take it well." Nia nodded, trying to play it cool, but her chest felt tight. "She thinks she's still got a shot?" "She thinks a lot of things," he said, stepping closer. "Doesn't mean they're true." Their eyes locked, and there it was again. That spark, that heat. She could feel it humming between them, dangerous and alive. She wanted to ask more. What happened? Why'd you break up? Why's she back? But the words stuck in her throat. "Anyway," she said, breaking the stare, "I'm out. See you tomorrow." "Nia," he said, catching her wrist as she turned. His grip was firm, warm, and it stopped her cold. "You don't have to worry about her." "Who's worried?" she shot back, pulling free with a grin she didn't feel. "I'm good, boss." She walked out, the evening air hitting her like a slap, but her mind was spinning. Cassie Vaughn wasn't just an ex, she was a ghost, a shadow from Jackson's past, and Nia didn't like how it felt creeping into her present. That night, she crashed at her apartment, a cramped one-bedroom on the south side, walls plastered with old posters and fairy lights she'd strung up to make it hers. She was sprawled on the couch, a bowl of ramen in her lap, when her phone rang. Mama D's name lit up the screen. "Hey, Ma," she said, balancing the bowl as she answered. "Nia, baby, how's that fancy job?" Mama D's voice was warm but sharp, like she could sniff out bullshit from a mile away. "It's good," Nia said, slurping a noodle. "Busy. Kinda crazy." "Mm-hmm," Mama D said. "And that boss of yours, still treating you right?" "Yeah," Nia said, hesitating. "He's cool. Real cool." "Too cool?" Mama D asked, and Nia could hear the eyebrow raise through the phone. "Ma, chill," Nia laughed, but it sounded hollow. "He's just my boss." "Uh-huh," Mama D said. "You watch yourself, girl. Them rich folks play different games." Nia hung up after a few more minutes of small talk, but her mama's words stuck. Games. Was that what this was? Jackson's grins, his touches, the way he looked at her. Was it real? Or was she just a distraction until Cassie swooped back in? She tossed the ramen bowl in the sink, staring at her reflection in the window. She didn't know, but she was damn sure gonna find out. The next morning, she was back at her desk, determined to keep it professional. No flirting, no vibes, just work. But then the elevator broke down. She was heading up with Jaxon, alone because of course, and halfway to the 25th floor, it jolted to a stop. The lights flickered, then steadied, and the panel went dead. "You've got to be kidding me," Nia said, jabbing the buttons. Nothing. Jaxon leaned against the wall, hands in his pockets. "Looks like we're stuck." "Great," she muttered, crossing her arms. "With my luck, we'll be here till Christmas." He chuckled, but the space felt smaller now, the air thicker. She could smell him, cedarwood and mint, and feel the heat rolling off him. He stepped closer, checking the panel over her shoulder, his chest brushing her back. Her pulse kicked up, and she hated it. "Relax," he said, voice low. "They'll get us out." "I'm relaxed," she lied, turning to face him. Bad move. He was right there, inches away, eyes boring into hers. The tension snapped taut, and she saw it. The way his gaze dropped to her lips, the way his breath hitched. He leaned in, slow, like he was testing the waters, and she froze, caught between wanting it and running. "Jaxon," she said, voice barely a whisper, "I'm not your toy." He stopped, pulling back just enough to meet her eyes. "You think that's what this is?" Before he could answer, the elevator lurched, lights flashing, and the doors slid open. Elliot stood there, clipboard in hand, oblivious. "Oh good, you're fine," Nia bolted out, heart hammering, leaving Jaxon behind. She didn't look back, but she felt his stare all the way to her desk. Cassie might be a ghost, but this, whatever this was alive, and it was scaring the hell out of her. Nia Carter was drowning in her own head. 3 weeks into her gig at King Enterprises, and she still couldn't figure out what the hell was going on with Jaxon King. That elevator moment, the almost kiss, the way he looked at her like she was more than just his coffee-spilling sidekick, had her spinning. She'd bolted out of there fast, but the heat of it stuck to her like humidity on a Chicago summer night. She wasn't dumb. She knew something was brewing between them, something messy and real, but every time she tried to box it up as just work, it slipped out of her grip. She was at her desk now, late on a Friday, the office humming with the low buzz of fluorescent lights and the occasional clack of a keyboard. Most of the suits had cleared out for the weekend, leaving the 25th floor quiet except for her and Jaxon, who was holed up in his office, door cracked open. She'd volunteered to stay. Some big pitch was due Monday, and he'd needed help sorting files. Truth was, she didn't mind. She liked the late nights with him. Less chaos, more space to breathe, even if it meant dodging those looks he kept throwing her way. Her desk lamp cast a warm glow over the mess she called home base. Sticky notes with doodles of stars, a bag of hot Cheetos she'd been snacking on, and that Michael Jordan bobblehead nodding at her like it approved. She was halfway through a stack of contracts, her purple-painted nails tapping the desk, when Jackson's voice cut through the silence. "Carter, you still alive out there?" "Barely," she called back, stretching her arms over her head. Her crop top rode up, flashing a strip of skin, and she caught him peeking through the glass. "These papers are trying to kill me." He stepped out, sleeves rolled up, tie long gone, looking less like a CEO and more like a guy who'd just rolled out of a bar fight, hot, disheveled, human. "Need a break?" he asked, leaning against her desk. His hip brushed the edge, close enough that she could feel the warmth rolling off him. "Need a miracle," she said, tossing a pen down. "You got one of those in your fancy suit?" He smirked, crossing his arms. "How about pizza instead? I'm starving." "Pizza?" She perked up, spinning her chair to face him. "You're speaking my language now, boss." "Thought so," he said, pulling out his phone. "What's your poison?" "Pepperoni, extra cheese, and don't skimp on the grease," she said, grinning. "Southside style." "Done," he said, tapping the order in. "Give it 20 minutes. They fell into an easy rhythm, him perched on her desk, her kicking back in her chair, trading jabs about the week. She told him about Brad, the VP's latest snide comment. He asked if I was here to fix the copier today, and Jackson's jaw tightened, but he laughed it off. Brad's an asshole. Ignore him. Hard to ignore a dude who looks like he's plotting my downfall, she said, popping a Cheeto in her mouth. He's not worth the energy, Jaxon said, snagging a Cheeto from her bag. You're doing fine. Fine? She teased, leaning forward. I set off the fire alarm Tuesday. And I put it out, he shot back, grinning. Teamwork. She laughed, loud and free, and he joined in, the sound bouncing off the glass walls. It was moments like this, small, unguarded, that made her wonder. Was this just a job, or was she kidding herself? The pizza arrived, and they ate it right there, grease staining the contracts she'd pushed aside. She was mid-bite, sauce on her chin, when Jaxon stood, stretching. Come on, let's finish this in my office. More space. She followed, balancing the pizza box, her sneakers scuffing the floor. His office was a different beast at night. City lights glittering through the windows, the desk a sprawl of papers and laptops. She set the box down, wiping her hands on her jeans, and he handed her a stack of folders. Sort these by date. I'll handle the digital crap. They worked in silence for a while, the only sounds the rustle of paper and the hum of his computer. She was cross-legged on the floor, flipping through files when she shrugged off her jacket. Too warm, too stuffy. Underneath was a silk tank top, deep red, clinging to her curves like a second skin. She didn't think much of it until she caught Jaxon staring. His fingers paused over the keyboard. What? She said, glancing down. I got sauce on me? No, he said, voice rougher than usual. Just damn, Nia. She smirked, heat creeping up her neck. Eyes up here, boss. He laughed, but it was strained, and he stood, crossing the room to her. Need help down there? Only if you're offering, she said, playful, but the air shifted. He crouched beside her, close enough that their knees brushed, and reached for a folder. His hand grazed hers, lingering, and she felt it, that spark, electric and wild. She looked up, and his eyes were on her, dark and searching. Jaxon, she started, but he cut her off, his hand sliding to her waist, fingers splaying against the silk. Her breath caught, and then he was kissing her, hard, hungry, like he'd been holding it back too long. She kissed him back, hands gripping his shirt, tasting pepperoni and something sweeter, something him. Papers scattered as they shifted, her back hitting the carpet, his weight pressing into her. It was messy, urgent, and so damn right she couldn't think straight. They broke apart, gasping, his forehead against hers. Shit, he muttered, half laughing. I didn't mean. Don't you dare apologize, she said, tugging him back down. We're past that. This time, it was slower, his lips on her neck, her hands in his hair, the city lights painting them in gold and shadow. She didn't know how long they stayed like that, tangled up in each other. But when they finally pulled back, sprawled on the floor amid the wreckage of files, she was grinning like an idiot. Well, she said, catching her breath, that's one way to sort papers. He laughed, rolling onto his back. Best assistant I've ever had. Damn right, she said, sitting up. But as the high-faded reality crept in, she'd just made out with her boss, on his office floor. What now? He must have seen the shift in her face because he sat up too, running a hand through his hair. Nia, listen. That wasn't just... I've been wanting to do that for a while. She blinked, heart tripping over itself. For real? Yeah, he said, meeting her eyes. You're not just some hire to me. You're... He stopped, like he couldn't find the words, then sighed. There's something I should tell you. Her stomach tightened. What? He stood pacing to the window, staring out at the skyline. Cassie didn't just leave me. I walked away. She wanted me to sign off on a deal, a big one, millions on the table. My family was in on it too. But it was dirty. Offshore accounts, shady partners, the kind of shit that keeps you up at night. I said no. They didn't take it well. Nia got to her feet, brushing off her jeans. So she's pissed 'cause you grew a conscience? Pretty much, he said, turning to face her. She's been trying to claw her way back ever since. Thinks she can guilt me into it. Or scare me. I don't know what she's planning, but she's here for a reason. Nia crossed her arms, processing. And you're telling me this why? Because you're in it now, he said, stepping closer. With me, if you want to be. Her chest went tight again, but not from fear. She saw it in his face. He wasn't playing. This was real, messy, and hers if she wanted it. Your trouble, Jaxon King, she said, smirking to hide how fast her heart was going. Takes one to know one, he shot back, echoing her line from the gala. She laughed, and he pulled her into a hug. Not a kiss, just a hold, solid and warm. She let herself sink into it, just for a second, before the world came crashing back. That crash came the next day. Saturday morning, Nia was still floating, replaying that kiss, Jackson's confession, the way he'd looked at her like she was worth something. She was at home, frying eggs in her tiny kitchen, when her phone buzzed. It was Darius, her little brother, his voice crackling through the line. Yo, Nia, I fucked up, he said, sounding panicked. What did you do? She said, flipping the eggs, her gut already sinking. Tagged the wrong wall, he said. That big-ass building downtown, King something. Cops nabbed me. Her spatula froze midair. King Enterprises? Yeah, he said, quieter now. They're holding me at the station. Ma's gonna kill me. Shit, Darius, she hissed, turning off the stove. Stay put. I'm coming. She threw on a hoodie and bolted, her mind racing. Darius was 19, a graffiti artist with more talent than sense, always chasing the next big canvas. She'd bailed him out of dumb stunts before, tagging trains, sneaking into abandoned warehouses. But this was Jackson's turf. Her turf now, too. She caught a bus to the precinct, heart pounding, and when she got there, Darius was slouched in a plastic chair, hands cuffed, paint still smudged on his fingers. You idiot, she snapped, storming up to him. You couldn't pick a damn alley instead. It was a clean shot, he said, shrugging like it was no big deal. That glass wall was begging for it. It's my job, Darius, she yelled, loud enough that the cop at the desk glanced over. You tagged my job. His smirk faded. For real? Yeah, for real, she said, pacing. I'm calling Jaxon. Nia, don't, he started, but she was already dialing. Jaxon picked up on the second ring. Carter, he said, voice groggy like she'd woken him. What's up? My brother's an asshole, she said, cutting straight to it. He graffitied your building. Cops have him. Can you, I don't know, fix this? There was a pause, then a rustle like he was sitting up. Where are you? 12th District, she said, rubbing her temple. On my way, he said, and hung up. Jaxon rolled up 20 minutes later, still in sweats and a hoodie, hair a mess, looking nothing like the CEO she knew. He strode into the precinct like he owned it. Technically, he could have. And talked to the desk sergeant, all calm and clipped. Nia stood by Darius, arms crossed, fuming. You owe me, she muttered to her brother. Chill, sis, he said, nudging her. Your boyfriend's got it. He's not my... she started, but Jaxon was back, nodding at her. They're letting him off with a warning, he said. I know the captain. We're good. Nia exhaled, tension bleeding out of her. Thanks, seriously. No problem, he said, then glanced at Darius. You're lucky she's got my number, kid. Darius grinned, all teeth. You're the boss, huh? Nice. Get him out of here, Jaxon said to Nia, smirking, before he paints the squad car. She dragged Darius outside, the morning sun harsh on her eyes. He slung an arm around her, still cocky despite the cuffs. Your man's cool, he said. Shut up, she said, shoving him off, but she couldn't hide the smile. Jaxon had her back, really had it. And that hit deeper than the kiss, deeper than anything. Back at her place, she called Tina, spilling everything. The office makeout, Jaxon's past, Darius's stunt. Tina cackled through the line. Girl, you're living a damn movie. He's into you for real. Maybe, Nia said, flopping onto her couch, but it's complicated. Love's always complicated, Tina said. You gonna run from it? Nia didn't answer, just stared at the ceiling. She wasn't running, not yet, but she felt the weight of it all. Jaxon wasn't just her boss anymore. He was in her life, her mess, her family. And that scared the shit out of her. That night, she texted him. Thanks again. You didn't have to do that. His reply came fast. Yeah, I did. You're worth it. She stared at the screen, heart thumping, and typed back, Your trouble, King. Takes one to know one, he shot back, and she laughed, alone in her apartment, knowing she was in too deep to climb out. Nia Carter was riding a high she didn't trust. A month into her gig at King Enterprises, and things with Jaxon King were complicated. That late-night kiss on his office floor had cracked something open, something hot, messy, and real, and ever since they'd been dancing around it. Stolen glances over coffee runs, hands brushing when they passed files, late-night texts that veered from work to, so what's your favorite pizza spot? She wasn't dumb. She knew they were flirting with a line they couldn't uncross. But every time she thought about pulling back, he'd flash that grin, and she'd cave. Work was a circus, though. She'd settled into the job. Kinda. She still fucked up, sent a client the wrong contract, double-booked Jaxon's lunch with 2 different investors. But he'd laugh it off, fix it, and keep her around. The suits still whispered, Brad the VP still smirked, but she'd learned to tune it out. She had Jaxon's back, and he had hers. That was enough. At least, it had been, until Cassie Vaughn decided to turn the heat up. It started small. A week after Darius's graffiti stunt, Nia was scrolling Instagram on her lunch break, curled up in the break room with a turkey sandwich, when she saw it. Cassie had posted a throwback, her and Jaxon on a yacht, all sun-kissed and smiling, her in a bikini that left nothing to the imagination, him with an arm around her like they owned the world. Caption read, Some loves never fade. Nia's stomach twisted, but she swiped it away, texting Tina instead. X is back at it. Thirsty much? Tina's reply was instant. She's pressed. You got him now, girl. Post something back. Nia smirked, snapping a pic of her and Jaxon from the day before. Him at his desk, her leaning over with a stack of files, both grinning like kids. She captioned it. Work hard, play harder. It wasn't a yacht, but it was real. She hit post and shoved her phone in her pocket, trying to ignore the petty thrill it gave her. But Cassie wasn't playing small. 2 days later, Nia walked into the office to find the gossip mill on fire. Someone, Claire probably, that nosy receptionist, had screenshotted a blog post from some shady corporate tea site. Headline screamed, King Enterprises CEO's new assistant, diversity stunt or office fling. The article was a hatchet job, pics of Nia from her Instagram, grainy shots of her and Jaxon laughing in the lobby, and a whole paragraph implying she was a token hire Jaxon was screwing on the side. It even dragged up her South Side roots, calling her a street kid playing dress-up in the C-suite. Nia's hands shook as she read it, tucked behind her desk, the words burning into her. Token. Fling. She'd heard it before. Brad's snide jab, but seeing it in print, spread across the internet like gospel, hit different. She slammed her phone down, jaw tight, and stormed to the bathroom, locking herself in a stall. Her reflection in the mirror stared back. Dark eyes blazing, curls spilling out of her bun, tank top clinging to her like armor. She wanted to scream, but she just gripped the sink, breathing hard. "You good, Carter?" Jaxon's voice came through the door a minute later, low and concerned. She yanked it open, glaring. "You see this shit?" He stepped in, shutting the door behind him, his face hard. "Yeah, it's bullshit. I'm handling it." "Handling it?" she snapped, pacing the tiny space. "It's out there, Jaxon. Everyone's reading it. Your board, your clients, my damn mama probably. They think I'm your side piece or some PR move." "You're not," he said, grabbing her shoulders to stop her. "You know that." "Do I?" She shot back, pulling away. "'Cause this looks real bad, and it's got Cassie's fingerprints all over it." He froze, eyes narrowing. "You think she did this?" "Who else?" Nia said, voice rising. "She's been throwing shade since she waltzed in here. That yacht pic. Now this. She's trying to bury me." Jaxon ran a hand over his face, exhaling sharp. "If it's her, I'll deal with it. I promise." "How?" she demanded. "You gonna call her up and play nice? 'Cause that ain't gonna fix the fact that I'm the one looking like a fool." "You're not a fool," he said, stepping closer. "You're the best thing in this damn building." She wanted to believe him. God, she did. But the doubt was a knife, twisting deep. "I need air," she muttered, pushing past him. He didn't stop her, but she felt his eyes on her all the way out. The next blow came at a charity event in Detroit. King Enterprises was sponsoring some big fundraiser, fancy hotel, black tie vibes, all proceeds going to a youth arts program. Jaxon had roped Nia into going, calling it good exposure. She'd grumbled but caved, letting Tina dress her up, black dress, tight and low cut, heels that made her legs look endless. She felt good, powerful, until she walked into the ballroom and saw Cassie. The blonde was a vision. Silver gown, hair swept up, dripping in diamonds like she'd raided a jewelry store. She was laughing with a knot of suits, her hand on some guy's arm, but her eyes locked on Nia the second she stepped in. Jaxon was across the room, schmoozing with donors, but he caught Nia's entrance too, his face lighting up. Cassie noticed, and her smile turned razor-sharp. "Shit," Nia muttered, grabbing a champagne flute from a passing tray. She downed half of it, steeling herself. Cassie made her move 10 minutes later, gliding over as Nia stood by the bar, pretending to check her phone. "Nia, right?" she said, voice syrupy sweet. "You clean up nice." "Thanks," Nia said, not looking up. "You too. That dress must have cost more than my rent." Cassie laughed, brittle and fake. "Oh, it did. Jaxon used to love spoiling me like this. Guess he's slumming it now." Nia's grip tightened on her glass, but she smirked. "If slumming it means real talk and real laughs, I'll take it over yacht selfies any day." Cassie's eyes flashed. "Cute. But let's be real. You're a phase. He'll get bored. He always does." "Funny," Nia said, stepping closer, voice low. "He didn't look bored when he had me pinned to his office floor last week." Cassie's face went blank, then red, but before she could fire back, Jaxon appeared, sliding an arm around Nia's waist. "Everything okay here?" "Just catching up," Cassie said, recovering fast, her smile back in place. "You two look cozy." "We are," Jaxon said, his grip tightening on Nia. You should try it sometime, Cass. Beats living in the past. Cassie's lips thinned, but she turned on her heel, stalking off into the crowd. Nia exhaled, leaning into Jaxon. She's a piece of work. She's desperate, he said, brushing a curl off her shoulder. Forget her. Easier said than done. The rest of the night, Nia felt Cassie's eyes on her, a shadow she couldn't shake. And when the blog post blew up again, reshared with new comments calling her a gold digger and worse, she started to crack. Back in Chicago, the whispers turned to shouts. Monday morning, Nia walked into the office to find printouts of the article taped to her desk. Anonymous, cruel, a middle finger from someone inside. Brad smirked from his corner office. Claire avoided her eyes. She tore them down, hands shaking, and marched to Jackson's office. You see this? She said, slamming the papers on his desk. This is my life now. He stood, face dark. Who did this? Doesn't matter, she said, voice breaking. It's everywhere. Your board's calling me a liability. My brother saw it. Darius texted me asking if I'm okay. I'm not, Jaxon. I'm not. Nia, he said, reaching for her, but she stepped back. Don't, she said. I can't do this. I thought I could, but... She stopped, swallowing hard. What am I to you? For real? 'Cause I'm starting to think Cassie's right. I'm just a phase, and this... She gestured at the papers. This is what I get for it. You're not a phase, he said, voice rough. You're everything. I told you, I'm in this. Then why does it feel like I'm the one bleeding? She shot back. You're fine up here in your tower. I'm the one they're tearing apart. He didn't have an answer, and that silence cut deeper than the words. She grabbed her backpack, pulling out a crumpled envelope she'd written that morning. Here, she said, tossing it on his desk. I'm out. Nia. Wait. He started, but she was already gone, storming past Elliot, past the suits, out into the Chicago night. It was raining when she hit the street, fat drops soaking her hoodie, her sneakers splashing through puddles. She didn't care. She needed out of King Enterprises, out of Jackson's orbit, out of this mess she'd let herself fall into. Her phone buzzed. Tina, probably, but she ignored it, ducking under an awning to catch her breath. The city loomed around her, all steel and shadow, and she felt small, smaller than she'd ever felt back home. Then she heard him. Nia! She turned, and there was Jaxon, jogging through the rain, hair plastered to his forehead, suit jacket gone. He looked wrecked, desperate, nothing like the cool CEO she knew. What the hell are you doing? She yelled, stepping out to meet him. You can't just walk away, he said, voice raw over the downpour. Not like this. Why not? She shouted back, rain streaking her face. You see what's happening? I'm a joke to them, to your world. I don't belong here, Jaxon. You belong with me, he said, grabbing her arms. Fuck them. Fuck Cassie, fuck the board, fuck all of it. I need you, Nia. Not the job, not the optics, you. She shoved him off, chest heaving. You don't get it. I'm drowning, and you're just standing there. I can't be your project, your... whatever this is. I'm done. You're not a project, he said, stepping closer, water dripping off his lashes. You're the only real thing I've got. I'm not letting you go. She stared at him, rain blurring her vision, heart slamming against her ribs. She wanted to believe him. Wanted it so bad it hurt. But the doubt was a wall, tall and cold. I need space, she said finally, voice cracking. I can't think with you looking at me like that. He nodded, slow, like it killed him. Okay, space. But this isn't over. She didn't answer, just turned and walked away, the rain swallowing her up. He stood there, soaked and silent, watching her go. Nia crashed at Tina's that night. Curled up on her lumpy couch with a pint of Ben & Jerry's, the TV blaring some trashy reality show she wasn't watching. Tina sat cross-legged on the floor, braiding her hair, throwing her looks every 5 minutes. "You gonna talk or just spoon that ice cream till it's soup?" Tina said finally. Nia sighed, digging out a chunk of cookie dough. "I quit. That's it." "Bullshit," Tina said, twisting a braid tight. "You quit 'cause of that blonde bitch and her drama. You're running." "I'm not running," Nia snapped, then softer. I don't know who I am in his world, T. I'm Nia from the block, not some corporate queen. And now everyone thinks I'm banging my way to the top." "So what?" Tina said, turning to face her. "You know the truth. He knows it. Fuck the haters." "It's not that simple," Nia said, dropping the spoon. "I like him, okay? Like a lot. And it's screwing me up." Tina grinned, sly. "You love him." "Shut up," Nia said, chucking a pillow at her. But the word hung there, heavy and true, and she couldn't shake it. Days bled into a week. Nia holed up at home, dodging Jackson's texts. "You okay? Can we talk?" And picking up shifts at a dive bar to keep busy. The gossip faded online, but the damage was done. Mama D called, worried, and Darius sent a meme of a clown with "You good, sis?" She wasn't. She missed him. His laugh, his steady hands, the way he made her feel like she could take on anything. But every time she thought about going back, Cassie's voice echoed in her head. A phase. Then the mail came. A gold envelope. King Enterprises logo stamped on it, slipped under her door. She tore it open, heart pounding. Inside was an invite to the annual gala, a celebration of originality, and a handwritten note in Jackson's sharp scrawl. "It's not the same without you. Please come. J." She stared at it, thumb tracing the ink, and felt the pull. Tina's voice rang in her ears. "You gonna run from it?" Maybe she didn't have to. Maybe she could fight. For herself, for him, for whatever this was. She grabbed her phone, texting Tina. "Need that black dress again. I'm going back." Nia Carter stood in front of her cracked bedroom mirror, tugging at the black dress Tina had forced her into. It was the same one from the Detroit event, tight, low-cut, hugging her curves like it was made for her. But tonight, it felt different, heavier. She'd paired it with her beat-up sneakers instead of heels, because screw it, she wasn't here to impress anyone. Her curls were loose, spilling over her shoulders, and she'd swiped on some red lipstick, mostly to feel like she had her shit together. She didn't, not even close. It had been 2 weeks since she'd stormed out of King Enterprises, leaving Jackson in the rain with her resignation letter and a hole in her chest she couldn't fill. She'd spent those days bouncing between Tina's couch and bar shifts, dodging his texts, trying to convince herself she'd made the right call. But that gold envelope, his note, "It's not the same without you," had cracked her open. She couldn't run forever. Not from him, not from this. Tina leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, grinning like a damn Cheshire cat. "You look hot, girl. He's gonna lose his mind." "Shut up," Nia said, smoothing the dress. "I'm just going to see what he wants." "Uh-huh," Tina said, rolling her eyes. "You're going 'cause you miss him. Don't lie to me." Nia glared but didn't argue. Tina was right. She missed Jaxon like hell. His laugh, his steady hands, the way he'd looked at her in that office, like she was the only thing that mattered. She grabbed her clutch, really just a beat-up wallet with a strap, and headed out, the South Side night buzzing around her. The bus ride downtown was a blur, her heart thumping louder with every stop. The King Enterprises tower glowed against the Chicago skyline, all glass and light, the gala spilling out into the lobby like a damn movie premiere. Chandeliers glittered, waiters weaved through the crowd with trays of champagne, and the air smelled of money, perfume, leather, and that faint tang of ambition. Nia stepped off the bus, sneakers scuffing the pavement, and took a deep breath. "Here goes nothing," she muttered, pushing through the doors. She'd barely made it inside when she realized something was off. The dress wasn't just tight, it was backward. The zipper was down her front, the tag flapping against her chest like a neon sign screaming, "I don't belong here." She froze, hands flying to the fabric, but it was too late. Heads turned, whispers started. A woman in a sequined gown smirked. Brad, the VP, lurking by the bar, let out a low chuckle. "Oh, hell no," Nia said under her breath, tugging at the zipper. It wouldn't budge. She was about to bolt when Jackson's voice cut through the noise. "Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention." He was on the stage, mic in hand, tuxedo sharp but tie loose, like he'd been pacing before this. The crowd hushed, all eyes on him, and Nia's stomach flipped. He looked good, too good, and when his gaze landed on her, that grin broke out, the one that always got her. He laughed, a short, real sound, and set the mic down, stepping off the stage. "Scratch that speech," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear, weaving through the crowd toward her. "I'm changing the theme tonight." The room buzzed, confused, but he didn't stop. He reached her, stopping a foot away, hands in his pockets, like he was holding himself back. "You came," he said, voice softer now, just for her. "Yeah, well," she said, crossing her arms over the damn tag. "Your handwriting's hard to ignore." He smirked, then turned to the crowd, raising his voice again. "We're not here just for originality. We're here for the person who taught me perfection's overrated, who showed me laughing till you cry beats pretending everything's fine, who spills coffee, scatters files, and makes every day worth showing up for." Nia's breath caught. The room was dead silent now, every eye on them. She felt her face heat up, but she couldn't look away from him. "That's you, Nia Carter," he said, stepping closer. "Right side up or inside out." Then he did it. He dropped to one knee, right there on the marble floor, pulling that velvet box from his pocket. The ring sparkled, simple and bright, and the crowd gasped like they'd rehearsed it. "Nia," he said, grinning up at her, "will you marry me and turn every damn day of my life into a beautiful, chaotic mess?" Her hands flew to her mouth, the tag flapping free, and she laughed, loud, shaky, real. "You're insane, Jaxon King." "Say yes," he said, eyes locked on hers, "and I'll prove it." She stared at him, rain-soaked memories flashing back. His voice in the storm, "I need you." And something clicked. This wasn't a phase. This was him choosing her, loud and public, no takebacks. "Only if you can handle this dress staying backward," she said finally, voice cracking with a grin. "Deal," he said, and he was on his feet, pulling her into him. Their lips crashed together, her hands gripping his jacket, his tangling in her curls, and the room erupted. Cheers, claps, a few whistles. A waiter jolted, his tray of cocktails tipping, gin splashing across the floor with a glorious crash. Nia laughed into the kiss, pulling back to mutter, "Told you I'd start something." "Wouldn't have it any other way," he said, wiping gin off his cheek, and slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit like it was made for her, even with her hands shaking. The gala turned into a circus after that. Guests swarming them, champagne flowing, the DJ cranking up some old-school R&B to match the vibe. Nia stayed glued to Jackson's side, dodging congrats from suits she didn't know, her sneakers sticking to the gin-soaked floor. She caught Cassie in the corner, arms crossed, face like she'd swallowed a lemon, and Nia smirked. "Eat that, Blondie." But the real twist came an hour later. Jaxon pulled her aside into a quiet hallway off the lobby, his hand warm in hers. "There's something else," he said, voice low, serious now. "What?" she said, leaning against the wall, still buzzed from the proposal. "I fired Brad," he said, flat out. "This morning. He's the one who taped that article to your desk. Claire saw him. And he's been leaking shit to Cassie, feeding her ammo." Nia's jaw dropped. "For real?" "Yeah," he said, running a hand through his hair. "He's been gunning for my spot since day one. Thought he could use you to get to me. I'm done with him." She blinked, processing. "You canned a VP for me?" "For us," he said, stepping closer. "And I told the board, either they back me on this or I walk." They caved. Her chest tightened, not from doubt this time, but something bigger. "You're crazy," she said, grinning. "Crazy about you," he shot back, and pulled her into a hug, his chin resting on her head. "I meant it, Nia. You're not just in my life. You're why it's worth living." She buried her face in his chest, the tuxedo fabric rough against her cheek, and let herself feel it, safe, wanted, real. "You're gonna regret this when I burn your kitchen down," she mumbled. "Bring it on," he said, laughing, and she felt it rumble through him. They went back to the party, hand in hand. But the night wasn't done throwing curveballs. Tina showed up, uninvited, of course, crashing through the doors in a neon pink dress, hollering, "Where's my girl at?" Nia laughed, dragging her over to Jaxon, who took it in stride, even when Tina slapped his arm and said, "You better treat her right, rich boy." "Planning on it," he said, winking at Nia. Then Darius rolled in, paint-stained hoodie and all, grinning like he'd won the lottery. "Heard you got hitched, sis," he said, pulling her into a bear hug. "This the dude I owe for springing me?" "Yep," Nia said, shoving him off. "Be nice." "Always am," Darius said, then nodded at Jaxon. "You're all right, man." "High praise," Jaxon said, smirking, and Nia caught the spark between them, her chaos meeting his calm, fitting together like puzzle pieces. Mama D called later, her voice crackling through the phone. "Nia Carter, you engaged and didn't tell me?" "Ma, it just happened," Nia said, laughing as Jaxon leaned in to listen. "You mad?" "Nah," Mama D said, softer now. "He good to you?" "Yeah," Nia said, glancing at him. "Real good." "Then I'm good," Mama D said. "Bring him by Sunday. I'm making cornbread." "Deal," Nia said, hanging up, and Jaxon raised an eyebrow. "Cornbread," he said. "You'll love it," she said, grinning. "Or you're sleeping on the couch." The night wound down, the crowd thinning, the music slowing to a mellow beat. Nia and Jaxon slipped outside, the Chicago air cool against their skin, the city lights stretching out like a promise. She kicked off her sneakers, barefoot on the pavement, and he ditched his shoes too, socks stuffed in his pocket. They danced right there, under a street lamp, her dress still backward, his tux rumpled, swaying to a song only they could hear. "You sure about this?" she said, head on his shoulder. "I'm a hurricane, Jaxon." "I'm counting on it," he said, tilting her chin up. "Keeps me alive." She laughed, soft this time, and kissed him, slow, deep, tasting the chaos and the calm of them. When they pulled back, he brushed a curl from her face, eyes shining. "We're not doing the usual, are we?" he said. "Nope," she said, smirking. "No big wedding, no fancy vows. I say we skip the bullshit and build something real." "Like what?" he asked, curious. "Like that youth program," she said, the idea spilling out. "For kids like Darius. Art, tech, a shot at something better." Southside roots, your resources, together. He stared at her, then grinned, big and bright. You're a genius. Damn right, she said, and he kissed her again, sealing it. Months later, they didn't have a wedding, not yet. Instead, they launched the Carter King Foundation, cutting the ribbon at a rundown community center on the south side. Nia wore jeans and a tee, Jaxon in a hoodie, and Darius painted the first mural, a wild splash of color across the brick. Mama D brought cornbread, Tina brought the party, and the kids, scrappy, loud, full of fire, ran circles around them. That night, they crashed at Nia's place, sprawled on her couch, pizza boxes scattered. She was curled into him, his arm around her, the ring glinting on her finger. Still think I'm worth it? She asked, half teasing. Every second, he said, kissing her temple, even when you burn the pizza. She laughed, swatting him, and they settled into the quiet, the city humming outside. It wasn't perfect, her chaos, his past, the world waiting to judge, but it was theirs. A love built on spills, fights, and bare feet under streetlights, strong enough to weather any storm. And when the rain came again, tapping the windows, they didn't run. They danced. That's the end of Nia and Jaxon's wild ride. From coffee stains to a ring in the chaos, they found something real. What did you think? Did they earn that happy ending? Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment. Give me your rating, 0 to 10, and tell me your favorite moment. Don't forget to ring that bell for more stories like this. What's your take on love in the mess? Ever found it where you least expected? Spill it below. I'm all ears.